I would like to call to order the regular governing board meeting for the Jefferson Elementary School District for September 26, 2018. Can I get members present?
Shaquille Ali.
Here.
Marie Brizuela.
Here.
Clayton Koo.
Here. Can we get the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Vidalis, would you like to lead for us?
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, the board members will review the board meeting guidelines and report how well they adhere to the meeting guidelines at the end of the meeting.
Let's do something bad so we can say we didn't behave.
I don't know. I'm ready.
Okay, we're done.
I move that we approve the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. I also want to make a couple comments. We're going to close tonight in memory of former teacher at Jefferson John F. Kennedy Elementary School, Jane Deneen. We're going to close in a moment of silence for her. I just wanted to read a short description about her life. Jane Deneen, teacher at John F. Kennedy Elementary School, was hired on August 29th, 2000. She served 18 years in the Jefferson Elementary School District. Ms. Deneen started as a substitute teacher, a classroom teacher, and most recently a student support resource teacher. She worked at Susan B. Anthony and John F. Kennedy Elementary Schools. Also, we wanted to also close in memory of current President Manufo Linga Anawai's father. He recently passed away last week, so we just want to close memory for him as well, too. So the next item is item 6, special presentations, 6A, special summer learning in JESD 2018. Jennifer LaRock and JESD Summer Learning Programs Administrators will share about program offerings with Big Lift Inspiring Summers, BLIS Extended School Year, and 2018 Power Scholars Program with the YMCA.
Not quite yet. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer LaRock. I'm a district administrator of special projects, and I'm here to share with you one of our special projects that we worked on this summer, which is summer learning. Besides special education extended school year, which you'll hear about in just a moment, Jefferson offered 2 summer learning opportunities to our students. One of them was our Big Lift Inspiring Summers program, which was for incoming kinders through 2nd graders, funded majorly by the Big Lift grant. We also offered a program called Power Scholars Academy, and that was for our incoming 3rd graders to incoming 8th graders, and that was funded through our parcel tax, as we've noted in our LCAP. In total, we serviced almost 500 Jefferson students this summer. We are actually meeting in early October as a collaboration to analyze our student data and our parent surveys, but we do have some preliminary data to share with you tonight. In our Big Lift program, the kindergarten through 2nd grade program, our average daily attendance was 93%. So we're really proud of that. 98% of our families enjoyed the program and they felt that their child was safe while with us. And they were with us a long time, 5 days a week, 8:30 to 4:30 every day. 88% of our families increased their involvement in their child's education, and 100% of our teachers reported that their scholars showed improved confidence from the beginning of summer to the end of our summer program. And I've mentioned before in my presentation that on average, students lose 2 months of learning loss during the summer, but our scholars not only didn't lose any summer learning loss, but they gained 1 month of reading skills during our summer program. Our Power Scholars Academy program that we had for our 3rd through 8th graders, we partnered with the YMCA this year. And we serviced again our 3rd through 8th grade. Both of our programs offered a 3-hour literacy block in the morning, and all of our programs were taught by veteran Jefferson teachers this year. Every afternoon was filled with STEM activities and enrichment experiences, and some of the enrichment options that they had were yoga, dance, theater, gardening, coding, bike rides, and crafts. And some of the STEM units that they had to choose from were fairy tale engineering, force and friction, creative chemistry, and community growth mindset. In my presentations in the past, I have filled you with lots of data about our collaboration and who's a part of it. So this year, I thought that I would share more pictures with you to understand what our summer learning program looks like. So we've already started planning for next summer, believe it or not. But I'm happy to answer any questions before I pass it off to Colleen to talk about extended school year for special education.
So, I mean, were there any changes or additions from, this year from last year?
Well, we like to think we get a little bit better in organizing every year, which I think we have.
Okay.
Some of the differences were we switched from a 5-week program to a 4-week program this summer in the Big Lift Inspiring Summers.
Mm-hmm.
But to make sure that we still had the same amount of days where curriculum was taught, the first 2 summers, teachers only taught Monday through Thursday, but this summer they taught Monday through Friday. So we kept our academics days the same amount of time. Our leadership team keeps growing stronger and stronger each year. This program would not run as smoothly as it does without our leadership team. So every year that gets better.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I enjoyed watching it, and I also attended the graduation
You
this
did?
year, which was
Thank you.
very exciting. So, and I noticed in the video, Carol Groom was there,
Yes.
and I know she's the San Mateo County Supervisor, and she actually was the key person to start the program, and she loves it. So she's happy about what you guys have done. She's really thrilled.
She comes every year and is part of our collaboration meetings as well.
Yeah. So, but it was great, and the children sure enjoying it. You can tell. So thank you for all the work that you did and all the teachers that helped out.
Thank you for the presentation. I actually have a question. I was wondering what's in store for next year. I know that there were
Good
some questions in the
question.
past about like funding, and I was just wondering how it would affect our school district next year.
Sure. As of right now, we haven't gotten final numbers for funding, but they have told us that they expect it to look quite similarly to as it did last year as far as the number of students that we'll be able to service. And then we're also revisiting our partnership with the YMCA for our 3rd through 8th graders, and that's a conversation we actually have on the books for October.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say something for the audience, or whoever is watching it at home, that one of the real dynamic thing about this program is that it allows the children, especially those that do not have the privilege of being able to go to preschool ahead of time, and sometimes they're the families that can't afford to send their child, that they are able to come up to the plate when they go to regular school kindergarten. They will be at about the same level as the other students, instead of being behind and having to play catch up and playing catch up their entire life. So I'm really happy this program is here, and thank you for putting it together and supporting it and all the things you do.
And on that note, we'd always try to pair the child's homeschool with a homeschool teacher for the summer program. So they'll have a familiar face when they do enter kindergarten
That's great.
in the fall.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Okay.
Good evening, everyone, board, colleagues, community. My name is Colleen Miller. I'm one of the program coordinators for the Special Education Department. I had the distinct honor this past summer and pleasure to be the principal of our Special Education Extended School Year. And I just want to talk a little bit about the program that we ran and some of the changes that took place this school year. It's a 4-week program. We served approximately 60 students. These are students who have IEPs. And pre-K through 8th grade, we had special education teachers, paraprofessionals, speech pathologists, a full-time behavior specialist, occupational therapy, custodian, myself, and administrative assistant. Some of the program highlights, we really focused on continuing our unique curriculum. That's our standards-based curriculum. It's all online, and the students had access to technology this summer to be using the unique program. They all had iPads as well as AAC devices, which are for students who are nonverbal. What was different this year is our speech and language department was there 3 times a week to provide not only lessons in the classrooms for our students, but also enrichment and lesson support to our teachers. We had a really talented staff this summer, I have to say. I am so proud of how hard people worked, and with students who are our most vulnerable, they worked so hard. So one of the other changes we had this year is we had a behavioral specialist on staff every day to provide support to our students, answer questions that families may have. And all of the students had special binders that the staff was well aware of any challenges the students may have beforehand. So we are well prepared this year. We also continued the use of our sensory room, which is an amazing room. I wish I had been prepared and taken pictures of it, but we had special lights, music, beanbag chairs, special things for students so they could self-regulate, but it was also used as a positive reinforcement system. Our occupational therapist was on staff once a week, but also was there to provide consultation to our families and staff. Some of the academic learning, the theme for the month for the summer was camping, and we did a lot of lessons about camping. Leveled books about camping, current events about camping. You can see from one of our books, that's a communication board that our staff use for students on their AAC devices, and for students who couldn't answer questions verbally, they had picture communication boards. We did art around the theme of camping, so a lot of our students got to make s'mores in the classroom, and they did an art project where they created a fire, a campfire, and roasted s'mores. We did some science experiments. We had music outside every day. One of the teachers really loved bringing all the instruments in, and the kids got to play music. And then we had sports. We had basketball and we had kickball, and so it was really a great experience. And I think that's it. I'm sorry I wasn't prepared with pictures. Next year, if I have the pleasure of doing this again, I will take a cue from Ms. LaRock and make this a lot more interactive and entertaining. But thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question. So the school psychologist, you have one there?
We had one who's actually getting her behavior specialist certificate at the end of this year. And she was on site every day to be able to help with any behavior supports that the students and staff needs, as well as myself. And one of our other program coordinators was also there.
So what did the psychologist end up actually doing?
We had the work, so some of our students who had challenges remaining in the classroom and maybe some of the staff needed to bring them on walks or to the sensory room, we were able to support that way without disrupting the learning of students and keeping students safe. Yes.
So that was the psychologist and you were...
I was definitely highly involved. Yes. Okay. Yes, for sure. And I loved every minute of it because I'm a school psychologist as well. So technically there were two of us there.
Okay. I'm just curious because usually, the school psychologist is not at the extended school year. So I was just kind of wondering what they actually ended up doing or if they were just there as needed.
Oh, she was there working on, consulting on, as I said, all the students that had behavior plans or specific ways that needed to be handled or reinforced. We were there to help with that and explain that.
That's good.
Sounded great.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
And you're very enthused, so that's great.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. Yeah.
Can you think of anything that could have been different, or something you learned by doing all this?
I think. Let's see. I just think the way the changes that were made this past summer with the speech therapist being there 3 times a week and having the behavior support staff, which hadn't been there in the past, made a huge difference. So if that can continue and we are able to fund that, then I am all for that, yes.
Great. Thank you.
You said the occupational therapist was there only once a week. Do you see a need or have the capacity to have that person there more often?
She was there once a week. I should clarify. She was there once a week for direct services, but she also came on site to do more consultation and support to staff.
Okay,
so I did feel she was more than generous with her time.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Good. Great. That's great.
And I want to echo my colleagues saying thank you very much for the presentation. It sounds like a great summer program, and I'm really happy to hear that students who may not always be treated the same as everybody else got to actually have the great summer experience that those kids actually get to do. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next item is item 7, communications. 7A, board member acknowledgements and commendations.
No.
No, not really right now. I might save it for the end.
I do want to just make a comment. I know that some of the board members went to the elementary school house open houses. However, I went to a middle school one, and I thought it went really well. It's very organized. As soon as I got to the location, I was given a schedule, and it was seamless. So I commend Ben Franklin and the staff over there, and it was great. It was good outcomes there. Learned a lot. So.
I just wanted to comment that I attended the meeting of the San Mateo County School Board Association last Monday. It was a discussion about math displacements and how school board members, superintendents, and school districts can take the initiative in terms of making sure that students are kind of placed in the right math levels when they enter schools so that they can actually be able to succeed and strive when they're in high school and college. So I thought that was a great meeting. I also want to just give a PSA announcement that yesterday was National Voter Registration Day. Election Day is November 6th, and whether you support anyone in terms of political issues as well as political party, just to make sure everybody registers to vote. And registration day, the last day to register is October 22nd. Just want to pass that word along too. Next item is item 7B, correspondence and superintendent comments.
I just have a couple of short ones. The first one is, and I believe this was given to board members, it's an annual letter from the County Office of Education. The good news is both our LCAP and our budget were reviewed and accepted by the County Office of Education, so we are able to spend our funds. The other news is that, as the board knows, the county is also aware and is monitoring their concern over the spending down of our reserves. They believe that we'll spend them all the way down in 2020, 2021, with some major reductions that need to be made at some point in the next 2 years. And they just encourage the board to monitor that progression, as we get our interim, we'll have a better sense of what those out-year reductions may need to look like. Oh, the other thing is, so our San Mateo County just put out an update to the community. It's called a report to the community. I believe board members may have been mailed one. Yes. It's very interesting. Lots of interesting things happening through our County Office of Education. But the one page that I think has drawn the most attention and the most conversation is the last page, where it lists all of our school districts in San Mateo County and the amounts of money that each district spends on a per student basis in their districts. And what has drawn the attention is that there's a whole bunch of districts, including ourselves, who are local control funding formula funded. And we cluster around spending around $10,000 per student. So there's like 7 or 8 districts who are clustered there. There's another set of districts who are clustered in the high teens. So they're spending anywhere between $16,000 and $19,000 per student. I know I think that's probably the bulk of our districts in San Mateo County. And then there's 2 districts who spend more than between $22,000 and $25,000 per child in their district. And it's just a piece of information that I think you may find useful as you consider the kinds of topics that you may want to bring up with legislators at your San Mateo County School Board Association legislative meeting in October. You may that is something that needs to be raised with them. I did get a report that one of our legislators that represents our area. I was not at the meeting, but I did hear that this person's belief is that K-12 education has enough money and that we just have to make different choices about how we use it, which we know and understand that that's not necessarily the case. But our legislators are not getting the message that K-12 education is underfunded and is 41st in the nation. And I think anything that the board can do to help communicate that to our legislators is very important. Anything that the public can do to communicate that to the legislators at their town halls is very important because they're not getting the message from anywhere else. Thank you.
I want to address that if you don't mind. I just want to say that I attended a meeting locally in Daly City, and we did have an elected official there, Assemblyman Ting, and he definitely understands the problem, and he is the one that's trying to work on making it a lot better, and that his belief is every district should have the same amount of money, and he is working on it. So there are some out there that are working. So I want to make sure we didn't put everybody in the same little circle, because they are working on it, and it's incumbent upon us and everybody here that once in a while you go to Sacramento. I remember one time and we had bus loads of people going there, and they listened. So the more people that complain and show up, children, parents, teachers, administrators, and board members, don't sit around and wait for someone to do it. We got to make it happen. Okay, enough of my speech.
Next item is item C, administrator comments.
Yeah, I would like to, first off, comment on our summer learning programs, that we're able to offer a comprehensive learning program to students for 3 years in a row now, enrolling. I think that's wonderful because for so many years, we did not offer summer school to anybody that didn't have an IEP. And this really, it's wonderful to hear that they're not only not falling back, but they're gaining, and that is so important, and that'll help this district as well. Also wanted to say that I went to Fernando for their back to school night. There was a very large turnout. It was organized. It was really nice, and it was good that the parents could see how they had to quickly go from classroom to classroom to re-experience what they probably experienced 20 or 30 years ago. I also want to say there's still time to apply for the free and reduced lunch and breakfasts, and you'll be in the drawing. It's going to be coming up near the end of October, so please apply.
I also went over to Fernando Rivera. It was really good to be there and not have to run a back-to-school night. Those 8-minute classes are tough, watching the families walk back and forth if they're walking, but I was able to take my time. I enjoyed it, and thank you, Fernando, for having me. These last couple of weeks have actually been very tough. We've lost some good people in our district. I don't need to get too into it, but it was also very heartwarming to see everybody, and I know with Jane's passing and celebration of life coming up that we'll see a lot of that same coming together, and I want to thank those of you that I've talked to already and those of you who I haven't who were there. It was very nice to be a part of that. Thank you.
So I also attended Thomas R. Policita back to school night, and they had a great turnout, a lot of ideas and ways for families to get engaged in the school. And then speaking of parent engagement, we had our Parent Involvement Advisory Committee. I'm losing my days. I believe it was last night. That was last night. And we had a wonderful turnout. We had about 20 participants, which is one of our largest turnouts we've had. So it was really great to have that partnership. We had several families that were Spanish speaking only, and so we were even able to have a very diverse crowd. So it was great. We looked at our LCAP community engagement goals, and they provided input. And then also it was just announced that the State Department of Education is releasing our CASP scores, which is going to be our math and English language arts results are coming out next Tuesday. And so once that's released, I'll be able to do a presentation at the next board meeting on how our students performed.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to commend Ms. McCulick for that turnout for the PIAC meeting. I know that when I first got on the board, it was said that we shouldn't have the PIAC anymore. And I'll admit that Ms. Brizuela was adamantly against that, and
In favor of keeping it.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
That's what,
I also wasn't sure if it came out that I didn't want it.
but this was before the LCAP and all that, so I'm glad that it's an instrumental part of the district right now and it's relevant. So thanks.
That's good. Superintendent said.
Next item is item D, persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not the agenda. The maximum time allowed for any speaker is usually 2 minutes. And for tonight, we are making an exception on some of the items in terms of when to speak. We just have a large amount of comments in terms of an item for closed session and respect for time.
Wait, say that again?
There's some speakers regards to item 15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And,
so-
and they're not speaking, or they are
They
speaking?
are speaking now. Yeah, we just want to give them the chance to speak now instead of having to wait till the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't wait that meeting. Thank you.
The first comment card is from Paul Hagan. Sorry, Paul Hagan. Sorry.
What's the topic?
Good evening.
We should know.
Clayton, I couldn't quite hear you. I'm
Sorry.
not sure what you
Sorry.
said about making an exception. That you're making an exception in allowing me to speak tonight?
Yeah,
Is that-
sorry. So, sorry.
I know, we felt the same way.
I don't know. You said something.
Paul Hagan speaking on EFT and district negotiations.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
good evening, and thank you for listening. Paul Hagan, I'm the president of AFT 3267. Thank you. I had a couple things actually that I'm going to speak about. I know I'm supposed to be speaking on things that aren't on the agenda. I'm going to talk a little bit about our current negotiations, which are actually on the closed, the part of the agenda that's the closed session. But since you and I will be the only ones here when you go to closed session, I'd like to speak to it when there's actually people in the room. But I'd also like to speak for just a moment about my good friend and colleague Jane Deneen, who passed away recently. I knew Jane for as long as she's worked in the district. She started out as a substitute teacher working in my classroom. I encouraged her. I may have been part of the impetus that got her credential and got her into the classroom full time. I saw Jane about less than a week before she passed. And she spoke to me confidentially, but I'm going to share what she said. She told me that she was going to be starting a third round of chemo, and that if it was possible in any way that we could negotiate any type of early retirement incentives for our teachers, she could certainly need one, because she told me that she didn't think she could continue to work while she underwent therapy, and she could not afford not to work while she underwent therapy. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to have a discussion with Mr. Valenti on this topic in negotiations because she passed 5 days after that conversation. The point here, and I know that I have some colleagues in the room who are going to speak on the topic of the hardships that we face, and I know that you have heard our stories before. I'm asking you to listen with an open heart and with open ears. I fully appreciate the salary increases that the district has provided for the employees in the past 5 years. I appreciate that our district is no longer at the bottom of the county list when it comes to employee or teacher salaries. I also appreciate the difficulties of trying to budget a 3-year budget, never quite knowing what you're going to get, and that the district, like most districts in the state, are woefully underfunded, as Mr. Vidalis just pointed out, the inequities of our funding system. And I know that you can't change that overnight. But, again, I have to ask you, when you discuss the state of negotiations, that you make it a priority that this district can budget for so much. We have to be able to budget so that the people who come to our schools every day can afford to raise families in the communities where they work. I know that what's going on in our state is not your responsibility and it's not your fault, but your responsibility is to the people who are employed in the district. I know you're going to hear otherwise, but I believe that this district can provide a salary increase this year, and I hope that it will come across the table in negotiations. Thank you very much, respectfully.
The next speaker is Amber Waters, school counselor at FDR, to speak about FDR.
Hi, my name is Amber Waters. I'm school counselor at FDR. I'm in my 3rd year there. And I've not been to a school board meeting before, but as I get to know the school more and the district more, I'm taking more of an interest in learning about it and participating. And I thought I wanted to come here and just express my appreciation for the administration and the teachers that I work with. I work with really amazing people working really, really hard, and I think a good way to demonstrate that is just something that just recently happened. Just on Monday, we started this program. It's called Girls on the Run. And it's a great program, and it teaches kids, girls, we're working with 3rd through 5th grade girls, and problem-solving skills, friendship, and combined with making healthy choices for life, exercise, and just stress coping mechanisms for girls. And so we did this program last year, and it was really successful, and we had 16 kids, and 16 kids applied, and perfect 16 kids was the max. This year we put it out, and I was thinking, oh, we're just going to get 16 kids again, probably. We put the program out, and we actually got 28 applications for this program. And this program is completely volunteer coaches. And so what I do to get the coaches is I, send out an email and say, please, teachers, is there anyone who will volunteer to coach an hour and a half after school twice a week, from now, September, until December. And then we end the program with a 5K run in Golden Gate Park, which is really fun. They get medals, and it's really exhilarating. So I was lucky enough to have 2 amazing teachers, special education teachers, both of them, Ms. Sharon and Mr. Aldeguer at FDR, wonderful people. They have volunteered, but they have volunteered under, okay, we're going to have a 16-kid max. When I told them we had 28 girls, and I didn't have a mechanism of a time stamp to how am I going to turn away these 28, this other, half, basically half. They were like, Amber, we'll make it work. We'll do it. This is going to be really tough, but we'll make the adjustments. And I just wanted to share that story with you because it just demonstrates how amazing and awesome the people at FDR are. Always not just doing their job, but going beyond and putting their heart into what they do. And, as Paul just talked about, and that we're in salary negotiations, it's on all of our minds that we don't just do our job, we go beyond because we have heart for it. Then we want to retain and attract new talent to be teachers and to be counselors and to be administrators. And certainly a part of that in the Bay Area is having competitive salaries. And so I just wanted to relate that because, as there are many young people in their 20s and early 30s starting and growing families, there's others of us in different stages of life trying to get kids to college or just maybe buy a house, whatever it is that we need to do to be healthy and cope with the daily stress that we have of just living in the Bay Area and wanting not to be frazzled at work and put in our heart into our jobs, because that's what is rewarding to us, because many of us could go on and work in different places and make a larger salary at different places, but we choose to work at the schools and do our best there. And so I just asked, as we go into salary negotiations, that can be looked at, and just to recognize there are so many wonderful examples of just what I talked about, people going beyond. And that's it. Thank you.
The next speaker is Jamie Natuzzi, teacher at Thomas Edison. I have a quick question. I noticed you have 2 speaker cards. Were you talking about the same topic, or is it a?
Same topic. You asked me to submit one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I was running late, so I asked to submit.
Okay.
You're not
One
twins
topic.
then, huh?
Cool.
And it's going to be a random, too. Yes. So good evening. My name is, the real name is James Natuzzi, but everybody calls me Jamie. So thank you for letting me talk tonight about personal things. The last time I talked here, I talked about things in my job, and it was easier to do because it wasn't about personal things. So I want to talk a little bit about personal, but it's really more about the future. So I'm wearing this shirt because this shirt reminds me of a character from the show This Is Us. His name is Randall, and Randall wore the same shirt. And I know that because one day I showed up at my mother's house at night. We're sitting watching This Is Us, and I'm wearing this shirt, and I look at the TV, and there's Randall, and he's wearing the same exact shirt. And it was the moment that he was talking to, I don't know if you're familiar with the show, but he had a foster child, and he was talking to the foster child, and he said she was leaving, going back with her mother, and he said to her, "Remember what I said about hard work? Hard work, big house, fancy car." And then I started thinking about myself. I've been working really hard. Been in the district 20, I don't know, Roberta knows, 20-something years, 23. I've been an English camp teacher. I've worked in a bakery. I now drive Uber. I got up this morning at 4:30, picked up some passengers that were going to Salesforce, 2 women that were going to Salesforce, and I asked them, it was kind of bluntly, I said, "Did you ever think about teaching?" And the one girl got really excited about it. She said, "My mother was a teacher." And this really hit me because my son's sitting over there right now. And she said, "But my mother said, don't go into teaching. Try something else." And Brendan, what have I said to you? Don't go into teaching. Sort of a backup. This is not a backup. This should be, I've got 1 minute left, sorry. This should not be a backup. I have a lot of things written down here. My wife and I raised a wonderful family thanks to Jefferson School District. I'm fortunate enough to have been here this long. I just think of the future. These 2 girls that I talked to in the car, they should be teachers. I'm working with some amazing young teachers that have energized me again, and they're sitting back here. And I don't want them to have to do what I did, to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and drive to a bakery and work from 2 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning and then come home and fall asleep only for them to wake up and wake me up. It was hard. For 7 years I did that. But that was a life I chose. That was a lifestyle I chose. I just want, I'm fortunate enough to be able to say I have a home. I've had to work multiple jobs to keep it. I just want teachers to be able to not have a big house and a fancy car, but just to have a home. A Prius is fine. But what we say, when we have our announcements on Friday, we sing the Friday song, and then one of the things I talk about is celebrating that we came to the end of a work week, and that a big house and a fancy car can be taken away from you. But what cannot be taken away from you is a big heart and lots of pride. And I know that's really why I'm teaching, because it does give me a ton of pride. And I've taken some of the things from here, and I've taught students and my own children the growth mindset. He knows about that. So this district has been a really incredible district, and I hope you consider the fact that there are young people that are out there, and we need to keep them here. I don't want to lose some of them to other jobs. Administration's okay. But it would be ideal to keep them there. We're very fortunate. So anyways, the exciting thing is, one last thing I'll say, and it's about myself, and I'm proud of it. My wife and I have been married for 20-something years, 25 years maybe. We bought our first piece of furniture. I had some friends that came over to my house, and we showed them around the house, and I realized everything in our house is a hand-me-down or a garage sale item. But we got our first piece of furniture. So I'll close with, if you work hard, you get a big heart and lots of pride and maybe a love sack couch. If you know what love sack couches are, they are really, and we're finally getting our first piece of furniture that's brand new. So please, that's me, but I'm really thinking more about others that are coming along. So thank you so much. And I rambled.
Next speaker is Anusha Takla, teacher. I'm sorry, that person is speaking about, she is talking about teacher care and teachers are stressed.
Yes. My name is Anushka Takla. I teach fourth grade at MH Tobias. I'm a proud member of AFT 3267. I'm a mother of 3 public school students. I'm an immigrant and a naturalized citizen. I'm here to talk about how teachers care about students and how teachers are very stressed out. Teachers have all experienced a student in need that has in need of social or emotional assistance. We step up because we care. We skip our breaks, lunchtime, or our prep periods to confer with staff members. Afterwards, we follow up with carefully worded emails to all stakeholders for the purpose of collaborating on a follow-up action plan. We all know colleagues who tutor students after school without compensation, and those who work after-school programs, summer jobs, et cetera, et cetera. We care about the families in our district, and that we can see through the example of Linda Flynn McNesby, who worked the food bank on the weekends at Woodrow Wilson because she cared so much about the families. Our Elaine Francisco, who coordinates the family education nights for the school district, which was a program created by teachers, Melinda Dart and Elaine Francisco, and later adopted by the district and wrapped into our LCAP, our Local Control Action Plan. That's just another way we demonstrated that we care about our families. But we're also very stressed out, and that's determined, we determined that from our AFT surveys. We worry about how to implement the many district initiatives in our already very packed daily schedules. the new adoptions, Lexia Core 5, technology integration, mainstreaming effectively, the many multiple MTSS meetings we need to attend, PBIS, and of course all the student testing, which inevitably takes longer than prescribed by any of the manuals. Teachers also worry about budgets. We worry about our rents, our mortgages, the increased expenses of groceries, paying for our aging parents, our children who need braces. If we are ever going to be able to pay, purchase a house in the Bay Area or retire with dignity. We understand that you're responsible for overseeing our collective budget. We're grateful for all the raises we've received in the past. However, our financial obligations do not plateau, they grow. Teachers care, teachers are stressed out. Tomorrow we continue bargaining, and we hope you care enough to find a fair monetary offer for us. Thank you.
The next speaker is Celeste Gonzalez, parent, and she is speaking about supporting teachers.
Good evening, board members and superintendents. My name is Celeste Gonzalez. I'm a parent of 2 students at Susan B. Anthony, an active PTA member, a physical education aide, and a voter. I've been a parent for 6 years in the Jefferson School District. I missed my daughter's soccer practice tonight to come here. As a concerned parent, I came here to ask you to find a creative way to give teachers a raise. Teachers are struggling to make ends meet. I'm asking you to find a way to give teachers raises so they can stay in the Bay Area close to their schools. I'm asking you to show teachers that they are respected and valued for the education service that they provide our children. So many great teachers have left our schools because it is just too hard to live here on a teacher's salary. Do the right thing and give teachers a raise that they deserve. Thank you for listening.
The next speaker is Melinda Dart. She is retired, and her topic is her topic is teacher pay.
Thank you. And yes, I am a lifetime member of AFT 3267. And I am retired, but I do have to tell you, I'm back in the classroom. And I haven't taught a 4th grade class for 9 years. So, it's interesting to compare, right, how it used to be and how it is now. And what I'm finding, and I don't think it's just due to, how my advanced age, but I think overall there is a huge increase in the learning curve about new curriculum. There's more schedules to juggle. My phone rings all the time with different obligations for different students. And there's certainly a lot more binders than there were, a whole new shelf full. And of course at Woodrow Wilson we are grieving, that's true, and that affects our daily life there. But this was true before our tragedy and still true now. Employees, and not just teachers, but classified employees, seem to be on the run all day long, just running, and worried a lot of the time, and worried about some things that don't even seem to me to be that important. I feel what's really important would be that people could feel, just some sort of sense of respect and appreciation, right, for the work that they put in. And how could that happen, right? How can we make employees feel respected and supported? So one thing I think is to respect employees' time. And that happens in all kinds of ways. For the person that has to leave suddenly because their kid broke an arm at school, right? In most cases, that kind of event is respected and the person is able to get some coverage and go take care of that. But I've seen instances where that isn't happening, right? And then the amount of time that teachers have to put in on their own. Even the substitutes, by the way, have to go home and study the math. So what about if the LCAP, if it's the LCAP that commits us, I know you're going to let me talk a little bit longer. If it's the LCAP that commits us to having our PDs all in one place and one size fits all with the same type of instruction, then let's look at changing that LCAP from both sides, right? Everybody needs to think about that and change it, because teachers need to be able to work at their sites and do some of the work with the binders, which they cannot carry to the central location. There's just too many binders. So, and then maybe it means not deluging teachers with new curriculum. Think about that, right? I'm proud of the district for spending its reserves down on programs for students and on employees who deliver services to students. I'm happy about that. I know that you're taking some heat for that. I hear that. But I think everybody in this room agrees that's a good thing, that money belongs being spent for students, not in the bank. But at the same time, let's think about the dollars that go into the curriculum. A lot of dollars go into that. Do people really need to learn a new program right now? And in closing, I do want to remind also about the election coming up, and people should get registered to vote. And if they can register online, but they can also come to the Parent Ed Night Transition to High School on Thursday night. That's tomorrow at Fernando. And we're going to have a voters registration table there, and we hope to see everyone there. Thank you.
Next speaker is Justin Boone, teacher, and he is speaking about pay increases.
Thank you for the time to speak in front of you. My name is Justin Boone. I'm a fifth grade teacher at Thomas Edison. Been a teacher within the school district for 5 years and going on my 6th. First of all, I have friends and colleagues who are also in the education profession in Southern California. So this problem or issue that you're facing is not just within our district, it's also statewide. And it's a problem that is with understanding on your end where you have some difficult choices. Hopefully you can hear our end and with empathy and sympathy for what we're going through. Similarly, you heard some people going through hardships of health, family, and also occupation where they are extending their themselves many different ways. Like my colleague Jamie Natuzzi, him and I also do car share. After I'm done teaching, I usually have an hour or so to get ready for the next day. I do lifts within San Francisco for a couple hours and then go back to planning for the next day, grading or whatnot. And when I'm in lift, I feel a great sense of pride that I'm a teacher. And I tell the passengers, they ask, what else do you do? And I said, I just got off work, I'm just relaxing. And that is a way for me to have an outlet to relax, but also gain financial means to support myself within this school district and community. Nonetheless, the time I'm spent, I feel a great sense of pride, but also a sense of sorrow that I have to extend myself so much and can't really do the next phase of my life, which is make a family. And that part of me is lacking and wanting. It's really hard for me to continue on and knowing that this crossroads might mean I have to leave the school district and find some other ways to support myself to gain the things I want as my own person and as start a family. Overall, it's been a great sense of pride being a teacher. However, it is a challenge in many different ways, and hopefully you can supplement and understand those challenges we're going forward. Thank you.
So that was the last speaker card. Are there any other speakers who would like to speak in public comments? So thank you for all the speakers. I just want to also make a comment that as the board ourselves, we're not allowed to actually respond directly to your comments, but we appreciate all your comments and your concerns, and we'll take that into consideration on all the topics that we discussed there tonight. So we're going to move along. So next item is item 8, general functions and consent agenda. The administration recommends approval of the start items on the rest of the agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second the motion?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next item is item 8C, resolution number 18-09-26, week of the school administrator. The administration recommends adoption of resolution number 18-09-26, designating the week of October 8th to 14th, 2018 as week of the school administrator.
I move that we adopt resolution number 180926, designating the week of October 8th through 14th, 2018 as week of the school administrator.
Second.
Is this a roll call vote, Superintendent?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Make it a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ali?
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela?
Aye.
Ms. Manio?
Aye.
Mr. Koo?
Aye. Now, next item is item 8E, resolution number 18-09-26A, resolution setting forth the Jefferson Elementary School District's principles in support of recognition of October as LGBTQ+ History Month, the Fair Education Act, and the inclusion of lesbian, gay, transgender, and queer LGBTQ+ contributions to the history of equality. The board will consider passage of resolution number 18-09-26A, resolution setting forth the Jefferson Elementary School District's principles in support of recognition of October as LGBTQ+ History Month, the Fair Education Act, and the inclusion of lesbian, gay, transgender, and queer LGBTQ+ contributions to the history of equality. Is there any discussion or comments? No.
I move.
Go ahead.
I move that we adopt resolution number 18-09-26A, resolution setting forth the JESD's principles in support of recognition of October as LGBTQ+ History Month.
I'll second the motion.
Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Ali?
Aye.
Mrs. Brizuela?
Aye.
Ms. Manio?
Aye.
Mr. Koo?
Aye. That was unanimous. So the next item is item 8F, topics for discussion, SMC SBA October 13th meeting. The board will discuss and develop a list of high priority topics and questions to raise with local state legislators at the October 13th SMC SBA event.
You've all received invitations for this event on Saturday, October 13th. The legislators invited are listed on that invitation. There's no cost to this. You register through the link in the invitation. But there was a thought that perhaps it would be good for a school board to identify 2, maybe 3 topics that could represent our school district versus individual board members. So this is an opportunity for the board to discuss that, and if those of you who are going to attend can bring those forth to the legislators.
I could actually add additional information. So on top of that, there is a deadline for this Friday to submit individual questions if we would like to submit questions directly for the legislators to kind of address on their own before the meeting, but we can actually also bring up additional questions at the meeting itself.
When you're there.
Yep.
Okay.
So are there, I guess, any thoughts on questions we would like to ask?
Are any of you attending?
I'm going to try to, but it depends.
Okay.
I think I said yes on the
Okay,
email.
yeah, so make sure that you fill out the registration form, and if you have questions, maybe one of you or all of you can add what the board comes up with tonight if there's anything.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't think of a question now, maybe just pass it on to the ones going. But, I mean, you want it to be a collective thing that the whole board wants? Or are individuals supposed to do it?
Certainly individuals can do it.
That's what I thought when I read the
Ms.
paper.
Liinga, I thought it might be good, and unfortunately she's not here to explain her thought process, that it might be good to have one or two things that, as a board, you agree that this is important. For example, you could say adequacy of school funding.
Well, that's for
You know, that might be something to come together around. But you may also have some personal things that you want to just include personally. But if there is anything that you would like to stand behind and say, yes, our board believes this is something that we need to do. I mean, there's a lot in education that we could do. So.
Well, I'll speak up then. I think it should be, we should fight for adequate funding. And if not, we need to have, somebody can tell us on other districts how they go out to get funding, because some districts actually get outside funding and don't have to worry about not getting a program. So it's funding. We need to get money so we can do what we need to do to make our district the best and to give employees what they deserve. So that's pretty easy.
Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Okay.
Yeah, school funding, that's it.
We still have the opportunity to ask additional questions in person as well, too.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that would be good to think about is, when we use these increased school funding, of course, but what are the things that a district would want to do with that increased school funding? Or we say adequate school funding, what does that mean to a legislator who believes that we have enough? So it's like, if we had more money, we can do more counselors, we can have more enrichment, we can have qualified physical education classes, we can have coding in our schools, we could have maybe, more. There's a variety of things that could happen. We can just look at what do they do in Hillsborough that we don't do here.
Hillsborough, they get a check from people that live there.
Well, and they believe that they still don't have an adequate school program.
Okay.
So, but I think
I'm going to go back to what I asked for. I asked for, and I think we heard it from the audience, it's not about getting more things. It's about paying our employees what they deserve to be paid so that they can live here and work here. And that's where we want the funding, number one. Once we can get rolling on getting more funding and adequate funding, and that all districts can be given the same amount of money, hopefully one day, it'll all come together and we can get more people, we get more services. But let's right now concentrate on what we have, because we're going to lose everybody. And we'll have no district. And that goes, by the way, not just the teachers, but the classified. They can't even live here. And teachers need the support staff. They need it. So that's important too. Equal opportunity.
So I actually plan to attend this meeting, and from what I gather and understand, you want us to come up with something collectively, and if that's the case...
If you would like, you don't have to, but we
okay.
thought there would be a good opportunity to provide the board to have this discussion.
Okay, so since I plan to go, I don't know if anybody else does, but I can speak on adequate funding with specifying that it needed to be earmarked for teacher salaries. For me, a personal sensitive topic is also housing, teacher housing, and maybe getting some kind of subsidization from the state. I don't know. If that's something you guys want me to discuss, then I can do that. On top of course, enrichment, development, infrastructure, all of that other stuff. Yeah.
Well, that sounds like the first creative thought that I've heard, because you said not just adequate funding, but adequate funding earmarked for teacher salaries. So I would support us, mentioning that, because otherwise it's going to sound like the same thing we always say to them. But I know in the past, when I've spoken directly with some of these state legislators, I've always approached Mr. Vidales first. And usually he's asked me to just talk about our bond measures or, those things that we have the language there to explain what we need money for. So I think that's what we should look at is what have we put into our bond measure proposals.
So, I'll be there as well too. So, there's also opportunities for small group sessions. So we'll talk directly with legislators so we can bring up a lot of these concerns as well as additional ones too.
I will have to say that the legislators that we're going to be talking to already are supporting what we're going to be asking for. But I think they want to hear from everybody, and they can't do it alone. Like I said, it's going to take every district to get together and go to Sacramento. It's going to be, you got to convince those other guys who aren't voting for this. So.
Yeah, and you may be aware that there was a bill that was gutted at the last minute that pushed for an adequate target to reach for. And at the last minute, it was shifted to, instead of the state must provide adequate funding, to the state may, or should look into ways to, and it just really took the air out of that bill. So I think our legislators need courage to know that their constituents really want this. Otherwise, they feel like they're out there alone. So I think anything that board members can give them, that they can have courage to stand up to those that want to water things down. That'd be great.
I will also say, having attended the event last year, there were state legislators who may necessarily know the importance of funding schools adequately and to the amount that we actually need, but there's still a lot of topics and issues that they aren't exposed to as much in Sacramento, that at the local level, it's really important for us to kind of make sure our voices are heard and that they understand that there are a lot more specific local issues that they may not be aware of just based off being in Sacramento all the time. So, any other comments on this topic?
No, but I do think we have. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we're being too easy on the state. We're acting like they're going to really do something. This is just my personal feeling. We're kind of wasting time talking about this unless we're going to get in there and say something different and demand it, because we've already been saying the same thing as long as I've been on the board and probably before I was on the board. And if we take everything and compartmentalize it into education, we're going to miss what we need to really say to them. We're not talking about, well, I think you did mention housing. You said teacher housing, but it's not just teacher housing. It's the cost of housing.
Cost of living.
Right, in the Bay Area and in California. There's a lot of other issues I think that are more social and economic issues, but education suffers because of those issues. So we have to go beyond the regular or the same rhetoric that we're taking to these legislators and not look to them as our saviors. They're not going to help us if we keep saying the same thing. That's just my personal feeling. Sorry. To me, it's a joke because you said it. Phil Ting, he kind of gets it and he knows, and he might need a little bit more of our help, but I don't know who else I could say gets it in that way.
If you look at education and look at it from the beginning of time, it was always a job that didn't pay well, and it wasn't considered like a glorified, wonderful job. But it is. It's a job that they helped children grow up to be good people and to be educated. And I think for a while it was just like here. Now, because of the cost of living, they can't even live here to teach the children. Right. So we do have something different this year to talk about. This year we say we're losing teachers because they can't afford to live here. So we need more funding because we're supposed to be the great place to live, California. Well, guess what? People are leaving because they can't live here. Well, we don't want teachers to leave. So somehow that's got to be the message. It's not business as usual. It's different this time. It's not about giving more pay raise so they can buy a fur coat or a new Cadillac. It's about living and paying rent. And the same thing goes for everybody that's living here. California is going to be nothing pretty soon. Okay, I better stop. But I think we have to be passionate about what we're talking about. It's about living here and teaching children. It's not about buying a big home. And I'll tell you, I'm lucky I have a house. Because if I had to buy a house today, I would only be able to buy the doorknob. Yikes.
Okay. So living wage, lower housing costs. I mean, it was mentioned earlier, so I can't really respond to it, but we need to look into, like, for instance, special ed funding. It's mandated that we have to do certain things by the federal government, but yet we don't get the money to do it.
Yeah.
So why aren't the state legislators talking about that?
You're right. You're right.
So,
Put that down.
so that's what needs to be said to them at this meeting, not the regular. Okay.
Yeah. See, I was in a district at a time when you got more money from the federal government, and they've taken all that away. But yet we still have to take care of those children. Plus, children that are in private schools get the funding from us for them to get get special teachers to help them out. So that's not the right way.
Technically true, but yeah.
Well, no, it is. Is it true? Yes. Yeah.
The schools don't get the money.
The private schools can't take care of them, so the
money follows the student through their IEP, but the school does not get the money. The private school does not get the money.
No.
Okay, that's.
No, I know that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I know that. But they don't have to deal with it. We do. We have to take care of our students. We have to give them everything, no matter what. If you're in a private school, you do something wrong, they kick you out. Here, we have to do all this stuff.
That's true.
So we need counselors. We need everything. We need everything. Maybe I better go to Sacramento and stand on my little cardboard box.
We do also have a legislative day, so you can go see our members in Sacramento as well.
But something has to happen. It really does. Because we don't have the money. If we lose everybody, then we might as well just go to somewhere else. And do you know that in Tennessee, that a child can go to 2 years of college, whatever college they want, and it's paid for by the state? Why is that? And we can't even afford them to give us money to support our children. Something's very wrong. Okay.
Okay, sounds like we have a ton of topics and we'll bring them up at the meeting.
Okay, you type that up for all, so we're not going to forget to say anything. Okay?
So the next item is item 10G, District Response to the FCMAT Report. Mr. Bill Heap, Director of Maintenance and Operations and Construction Program, will present the district's response to the FCMAT Report.
Is that the paper they sent to us?
Good evening. My name's Bill Heath. I'm the Director of Maintenance Operations and Construction for the district. And back in February of 2018, the district wanted to reach out to FCMAT. We were interested in reviewing the efficient and effective operation of the Maintenance and Operation Department with the intention of aligning it to industry standards. And so we reached out to FCMAT and contracted with them. FCMAT provided us with a contract to look at the organizational structure, evaluate the current workflow, and review the operational processes throughout the district. Okay. So, FCMAT asked us for a lot of information. We provided all that information, and that included the custodial schedules, the maintenance and operation schedules, the information from the amount of square footage in the classrooms that the district has throughout the district. Job descriptions, collective bargaining agreements, positions, and job descriptions of the maintenance and operations individuals. So on July 18th, FCMAT presented the report to the board, and you all received a copy of that report. The district has decided to make recommendations to take actions on a certain amount of those recommendations that FCMAT advised. One of the advisements is to eliminate the part-time maintenance coordinator and implement a full-time management level position with supervisory authority of the maintenance department. The district has eliminated the part-time coordinator position and implementation of a maintenance operations manager supervisor position will be should be filled by July of 2019. The HR will come to you later in the evening and ask you for approval of that, of a draft of that position. The district also was advised to request that the Personnel Commission ensure that candidates for the future open positions with the maintenance department hold relevant certifications and possess adequate work experience and training. The HR department is currently working on thoroughly screening and interviewing only qualified personnel.
We need to start.
FCMAT also advised to develop a thorough and preventative maintenance schedule. A new work order system is currently being instituted that will include a preventative maintenance schedule that will include all systems such as boilers, HVAC systems, pumps, storm drains, and all other relevant items. FCMAT recommended to create procedures that identify the level of detail that should be recorded about maintenance activities within the work order system. This new work order system has writable fields that require specific details before a work order can be closed, such as project labor time, itemized material lists and cost, vendor cost, and the system will generate a total cost and labor amount for that project to have been completed, so we can report that as to what our costs are to operate each facility. FCMAT also recommended to complete an inventory of the maintenance facility and vehicles with goals of depleting the excess overrun of materials and supplies. Items are now being currently inventoried and will be loaded in the new work order system that will allow the department to track and more effectively utilize the inventory. This also will allow us to inventory the tools and other equipment that the district has and maintain that. One of their other recommendations was to provide uniforms for the maintenance staff and require that they be worn in conjunction with the district provided identification badges to make maintenance staff more easily identifiable on school sites. The department's now currently working on developing a standard uniform for district maintenance staff and district custodial staff, taking into consideration safety needs, functionality, comfort for daily wear, visual appearance, and durability. We were also asked to update job descriptions for maintenance operations staff and align them with actual duties. Human resources and maintenance operations will work together to update the descriptions. Changes will be presented to the Personnel Commission and the Board of Trustees prior to their approval. One of the other things that they advised for us to do was to shift the organizational structure that has the custodial department working for individual school sites and the maintenance department working for the operations department. The current structure has custodians working for their school site principals and maintenance working for the maintenance department. As each school site principal may have different expectations and different needs, it doesn't allow the district to have standard procedures for the custodial departments, nor does it allow the district to maintain a standard quality of cleaning and maintenance throughout the schools. So in realigning that organizational structure, the custodial department would work, all the custodians would work for a custodial supervisor.
We don't have that page, do we?
Is it in there?
Where's it at?
So all of the custodians would work for a custodial supervisor with direct input from each school site principal about their daily operation at that school. And the maintenance department staff would work for a maintenance supervisor who would, on a daily basis, assign work orders and maintain communications with the school sites about their facility needs. Custodial staff, it was advised that custodial staff be under the daily direction of the custodial manager with real-time input. By enacting this change, this will allow the operations department to establish clear parameters of support other than cleaning tasks that the custodians can provide to teachers and principals.
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
Okay.
Could you say that last sentence again?
So by having the custodians work directly for the for a custodial supervisor, this would allow the operations department to supply clear parameters district-wide on the cleaning tasks that the custodians can provide to both teachers and principals while continuing to do their custodial needs. For instance, in some instances, a principal may ask a custodian to help move books or to provide support to a teacher for moving furniture, things like that. If that interferes with the custodian's ability to keep the classrooms clean, it may be necessary to bring in a maintenance man to do that work or a substitute to do that work. And a custodial supervisor who could look at that and say that this detracts from the custodian's ability to keep the school clean and keep it clean to the standard that the district's established, that custodial supervisor could make those adjustments without having to have it be individualized by school.
I have a question. Do you see any pitfalls with this proposed structure?
Yes, I do.
Pitfalls from what standpoint?
Well, we're changing this organizational structure here, so well, from what I see, there may be, since it was the school site principals that were originally supervising the custodians, right? With the new director of maintenance and operations, I would see possible conflict with, the principals possibly not seeing eye to eye with that director, or they're so used to supervising the custodians that when the custodians tell them, hey, my director is telling me to do something else, you know what I mean? Do you see any pitfalls is what I was asking with the new structure that is being proposed?
So for sure, there will not necessarily pitfalls, but there will be a transition period. Adjustments, learning. For sure, I think the principals would not mind not having that supervisory authority because they can now supervise the other folks that are under them. I worked in a district as a principal where I did not have direct supervisory authority of my custodian. The custodian worked for the department. My conversations were with the custodial supervisor, and the custodial supervisor had those conversations with the employee, and I just followed up and said, you know, your supervisor mentioned XYZ. How are we going to accomplish that? And so it was an easier relationship, I think. And you know, and we still asked them to move boxes, but the custodian would often say, you know, I really need to clean the spaces because that's how I'm evaluated. And if you ask me to do that, I'm not going to be able to accomplish my job. And that made me think, oh, I need to empower you to do your job, not detract you. So it made me figure out different ways to do that. So there will be an adjustment for sure. We've been operating under this structure for I don't know how long with no direct supervisory oversight of custodians besides the school principal.
I don't want to belabor this point, but I was kind of had the same thought, and my thinking is that I understand why we're doing this, but the example that was used, I just see a principal, they just need the box moved, you know, and if it's a big bureaucratic process or it can be vetoed and stuff, I think that could cause a problem. But I thought that you were saying at first that there would be more like, you know, the custodian could voice, you know, that what they're doing is taking them away from their duties, but I think they should just do it, and then unless you have that substitute available or something like that, and then maybe a conversation could take place, but now I'm almost to the point of micromanaging, so I can't go any further.
Yeah, and I think a single box is probably a poor example. I think so. Probably a more appropriate example is this classroom needs all the tables raised another 2 inches. And that's really something that the custodian's like, that's going to take me 2 hours. That means I can't do X, Y, and Z. So I think that's where, you know, principals can start thinking, this is a work order project, not a custodial project. One box moved from room A to room B, it's not a big deal. But a big project like that is
where you could get the maintenance people involved. Yeah, that's
so do we have a lot of examples that this has been a problem? Because why are we trying to fix something that might not need fixing? Because, you know, the principal's in charge of that school.
Correct.
And I think to have it where somebody could, you know, push their little weight around once in a while to get their way isn't going to solve the problem. It's going to make the school even more under stress.
Yeah.
The fact that you're saying that a supervisor of the custodian is going to be contacted and come over and say, well, is that supervisor only his job going to be to go to every school every time they have a little, you know, it doesn't sound right to me at all.
Yeah.
But go ahead, keep going.
Can I say something? The concept sounds right, but I guess we don't really know how it's going to happen, and that's the adjustment that Mr. Vidales is talking about that could actually be a pitfall. We don't know, but I don't think it'll be a pitfall because we had this conversation before, and we did agree to this, that the structure, you know, made sense. I guess we didn't ask enough questions at that time.
We agreed to this?
Well, we talked about.
I didn't see an agreement on this.
We talked about this before.
So the district does currently have 2 custodial leads, and principals reach out to those custodial leads for assistance in these types of tasks. But those custodial leads don't necessarily have, because they are leads, they are not supervisors, and there is not an established policy as to the cleaning policies and whatnot in the schools. Those custodial leads don't necessarily have the authority to give those custodians direction. And by implementing a custodial manager, it would allow that individual to have the management authority to give those custodians direction.
Do we have already a custodial position that oversees the custodians?
No.
The district has two custodial leads.
Yeah,
at this
okay, you
time.
call them leads.
That's the
Okay.
title of the position.
Okay, so leads, meaning they kind of give direction to the other guys?
No.
Right, so
What do they
so the
do?
district
What do
has
they do?
the title is Maintenance, Operations, and Custodial Leads, currently.
What does a custodial lead do?
Those individuals are tasked by the principals to assist them with developing work schedules. And on a daily basis, the principals contact those custodial leads and say, classroom 2 was not cleaned appropriately. Could you come talk to the custodian? And on, you know, on and on, at each school, at every one of our sites, right? This happens on a daily basis. So what you have is you have a principal who is not a facilities manager and doesn't have the expertise in facilities management, who's reaching out for help in how to manage those facilities and manage the custodial needs at those facilities, but yet the individuals that they're asking don't have the authority to give direction to the custodians.
I have a good question. So I think this is a good conversation, but I want to, you're kind of answering what I was thinking, is that how much communication will the principals have with this person? And it sounds like to me that the principals need to have a lot of discussion or be involved in this discussion. And but it sounds like it's already kind of leading that way if they already talk to these lead people. So
right. And it has happened that way,
yeah,
for years basically. But by establishing two management custodial or a custodial management position, it would allow that individual to have the authority to direct those custodians if they're not, if they need direction, and also to assist them in managing their time and to give them assistance of other custodians, whether it be substitutes or whether it be just maintenance utility people, to assist them in tasks that may not be specifically custodian oriented, but they're being asked to do on multiple occasions.
I have another question. So my question is actually two-part. So eliminating these lead custodians, what are we doing with them? Are we letting them just go and you may apply for the management position and see if you get it? Or what's happening with those two?
You would answer that.
I mean, at this point, what we're working towards is actually developing, and when it gets to my part, looking at the job descriptions. We're not here talking necessarily about eliminating the positions. That was part of the recommendation that came through in the FICMAT, but we were not here prepared with that information in terms of that process. We've pretty much just looked at our job duties, which we want to bring to the board to get your feedback on, and so we're not here right now discussing.
It was said at the last meeting, though.
Excuse me?
At the last meeting, I think it was discussed.
I wasn't at the last meeting, so I can't speak to that.
We didn't say specifically what would be done, but said that if those positions are eliminated, there would be other positions that are open. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's say.
They're
But we're not here today to eliminate any position. That's what Mr. Valenti is saying. Like, there's the recommendation is to eliminate. We are taking the first part of that recommendation at the moment to develop the job descriptions for managers.
Okay, you're doing step 2 before step 1.
So by having a custodial manager, that gives that individual the management authority to direct the custodians as necessary. And that would allow that custodial manager to develop a district-wide standard and a district-wide time schedule of how much time and how much effort should be put into each site and each classroom to keep everything throughout the district maintained at the same level. So to that point, The Human Resources will ask the board for approval of custodial manager supervisor job description to be filled by July 1st. This along with the realignment of the organizational structure, will ensure that all custodial staff, assignments, training, and evaluations are solely under the purview of the custodial manager and the Director of Maintenance, Operations, and Construction, with input directly from site principals. This will also allow the department to establish clear parameters of support other than cleaning tasks that custodians can provide to teachers and principals. So incorporated in their schedule will be an appropriate amount of time daily for those custodians to provide extra duties, that whether it be a middle school custodian setting up for assemblies and tearing down for assemblies, or whether it be an elementary school custodian moving classroom furniture from classroom to classroom because of different class size needs or things like that. It'll also allow the custodial manager to develop written cleaning standards and expectations of the custodial work, including daily, weekly, and monthly duties. And there will be parity throughout the district in the needs and the requirements from all custodians throughout the district. It would be necessary to prepare a custodial handbook that details the district's expectations and establish standards before creating work schedules. Work schedules will include adequate time to complete the assigned tasks. It also reviews each custodial schedule using the level 2 and 3 standards, and 2 and 3 standards. Standards of cleaning are established from 1 to 5, with 1 being orderly and spotless, and 5 being inattention. So we would like the district standards to be level 2 and 3. Different specific facilities require different standards. Kitchens require at least a minimum of level 2, and hallways and classrooms can be at level 3. Specific directions will be provided to ensure that the workloads are evenly distributed. It also allows us to develop and implement a site inspection tool to reinforce the district's newly adopted standards and to provide a fair mechanism for inspecting and improving the work quality. In doing that, we could consider making changes to the custodial hours that are allocated per site to properly distribute the workloads and implement the newly established cleaning standards. As a rule, now, with the national standards, the district has the adequate amount of custodians for the amount of space that we have. But in some instances, some schools have a little bit, have a custodian assigned a little bit too much time here and not enough time at another school. And so by changing those time allotments, it would allow parity throughout the schools. Then we'd be able to train the staff on the information contained in the new custodial handbook. So in order to implement this, already we're ahead by, we're purchasing new custodial equipment and distributing for the custodial staff throughout the district. We purchased new vacuum cleaners, we purchased floor scrubbing machines, and we're in the process of purchasing new equipment throughout the district. All too often, what happens is the custodian deals with what was handed down to them from the custodian previously. So keeping things at industry standards will allow custodians to more easily accomplish their work in a successful manner. Any other questions?
So before we go to questions, I have some speaker cards, so I was going to let the speakers first before we ask additional questions.
Can I just make a comment before speakers? So I just want to remind the board that there is a specific direction given to me that we improve the level of cleanliness of our schools and the maintenance of our schools during one of my evaluations in the last couple of years. And so that's what started this conversation. How can we get better at our level of cleanliness? How do we get better at maintaining our schools? And that is what led us to seek some outside support to give us a perspective of what happens across the industry in schools. We could have come up with some of these very same things, but it was important that we hear from people who do this and have seen this in operation at a variety of school districts. And so my goal is trying to meet the district's board goal and trying to ensure that our school sites are adequately cleaned and that our schools are adequately maintained, and what kind of structure do we need to be able to achieve that. And so that's sort of the background that to this. It's not just that we just think this is a good idea. The board told me, make sure our schools are cleaned at a higher level and make sure that they're maintained adequately. And so this is a first step.
I would like to say that because I've been on the board, and I don't remember the verbiage being exactly the way you said it. I think part of the thing that some of us talked about was our schools are falling apart because of age, and some windows weren't opening up, and we wanted to have more things done. Never did we actually say it's not being cleaned. I've watched the schools being cleaned, and of course you can't help it if a child drops his food on the floor and they can't pick it up fast enough, or if a child gets sick.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that custodians have to put up with, and it's sounding to me like you guys are trying to say that nothing's getting done. I thought at one time they all dressed that looked like custodians. They may not have a uniform that says Jefferson Elementary, but it's saying like they don't wear the right clothes. Now you want to spend money on things like that. And the other thing was about the name tags. Doesn't everybody take a picture and have a badge?
Yes, they do, but custodians have a type of job that they can't necessarily hang it on a lanyard because it gets caught in equipment. So we have to figure out ways of
It's up to us to do the right thing by giving them the right tool to use. If we don't give the right tools to our employees to do their job.
This is what this is about making sure that we take those steps to make sure that they have the right tools. So this is what we're saying we want to do.
Okay, but it made it sound like
no,
they don't
because
have
schools are being
uniforms
cleaned, and but the idea is that we could be better at doing that. We could deploy our staff in ways that would be more efficient across our whole district. So.
Now, can I ask one other question? And we have job specs, and don't the job specs say exactly what they do? They're supposed to clean, they're supposed to do it, and they sort of have time limits on doing it. At least it always was that way years ago. If something's happening now differently,
yes.
I'd like to ask the manager of why do they not know how long it takes to do this and this and this? Are you saying this isn't being done?
Well,
because you're saying we're going to establish. It's not being done?
We would establish a district-wide standard.
No, I think there was one like this before. What happened to it?
We don't know.
Because this is like saying, what? Now, I've gone into some of the schools to visit, and I'm going to tell you, when I go into the kitchens or into the place where the kids are eating, it's clean. You can eat off the floor almost. Okay, it's nice. I'm trying to figure out what is all this about. We're not doing this, we're not doing that. I'm just like, I'm shocked. That's okay, go ahead. I'm shocked.
I have a question. Do our current custodians know about this proposal, and what is their sentiment around it?
So every one of the custodians was interviewed. FCMAT came to the district and interviewed every custodian and every maintenance individual throughout the district. And this report is based on the interviews and the data that was given to the FCMAT examiners by interviews with custodial staff and school principals. Every school district custodian that was employed at that time and every school district maintenance staff that was employed at that time had an interview with FCMAT. So all of this data, all of these recommendations are based on the input that the examiners got from the custodial staff and the maintenance individuals. So they were aware of it. They were part of the process at the time. And when this was presented to the board, when the report was presented to the board, it was also It was also put out there, and any custodial staff and any maintenance individual had the opportunity to look at it at that point in time too.
Yeah, I had one little question. So I had a question about, I think you already answered the custodial supervisor will be housed where?
So the custodial supervisor now, both the custodial supervisors now have offices at.
We don't have custodial supervisors.
I'm sorry. Both the custodial leads now have offices at 19 Hill Street. They are not out at school sites. They go out and about on a daily basis. And
Okay.
so the custodial supervisor would probably have a central office and be available to go to any school site at any time to assist any custodian that required assistance or discuss with any principal the needs of the school site.
And the maintenance supervisor will be at the same place?
Maintenance supervisor would be in the maintenance department, because 99% of what goes on at the maintenance department as far as coordination takes place out of an office.
Okay. So they'll both be in that same Hill Street, okay.
Right.
Mostly their cars.
Okay, so I'm gonna, we have a couple speakers, so I'm gonna call the speakers up. First one is David Wood, Labor Relations Representative for CSEA.
Good evening, members of the board of the Jefferson Elementary School District and of the community. My name is David Wood, Labor Relations Representative for the California School Employees Association, and I'm here tonight addressing you on behalf of our Jefferson Elementary Chapter number 233, and particularly our members of the Maintenance and Operations Department. First of all, I'd like to say that this report, many of the items, in fact the majority of the items are negotiable. They relate to wages, hours, and working conditions. So each of these things that is implemented is going to need to come to the table prior to implementation. Now, I'm happy to report that the district has already agreed to bargain in good faith with CSEA around the issue of any potential reorganization of this department. And we look forward to working collaboratively with them in good faith to reach, solutions that are good for both sides. Now, that being said, you have before you an action item tonight, 12D, Maintenance and Operations Manager and Custodial Manager. To date, CSEA has not been provided with these job descriptions or the opportunity to negotiate. We ask that the board postpone any action on this item until CSEA and the district have completed negotiations on this issue. The recommendation that you've heard tonight is to potentially eliminate 2 lead custodians as well as a maintenance coordinator, and hire managers to do the work that they're currently doing. Education code only permits a layoff for lack of work or lack of funds. Paying a manager to do our work for potentially more money, let's face it, managers make more money, that's not going to meet either of those criteria. You're not, the work is still there and you're paying as much or more for the work, so that's not going to work. CSEA has a negotiable interest in this action as it relates to our bargaining unit members' work, to which the law grants them a constitutional right. So again, we ask that you postpone any action on this item, that's item number 12D, until we have the chance to negotiate the table in good faith and complete those negotiations and come up with a plan that's going to work for everybody. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice President, can we get some a response from Mr. Vidales on that, or?
Yeah, Mr. Valenti can speak to it too, but this is a process, as you know, with there are certain things that take place now. Personnel Commission takes action and reviews at another time, and then it comes back to the full board for full approval. So these are just preliminary things. We are hoping to negotiate with CSEA. We have some dates out there. We have to date not received a response to schedule that. So this takes time, and certain steps have to be taken before it's finally approved. So we will make sure that those steps are taken.
All right, thank you.
Next speaker is Lori Lyman, President of CSEA Chapter 233.
Good evening, Board and JSESD administrators. I haven't seen you for a while. I'm Lori Lyman, President of CSEA Chapter 233, Jefferson Elementary. And I have read the 67-page fact map report. And I can say that I agree with many of the findings. And I encourage you to read the whole 67 pages, or some of them blank ones don't read. Our dedicated custodial staff also wants the best facilities for our students and staff. And what I do not agree with is the eliminating, even though I know we're not discussing that as Mr. Heath said today, but it's still in the mix, so I want it to be heard. That I believe leaving these positions in place and giving them the support they need will make the department even stronger. They know the schools, they know the people, they know the principals. A lead gives direction to the custodians, so they're already doing that. And so if they have the support they need, and that they will do an even better job at that. And CSEA also has a Maintenance Operations Academy that I've talked about before that I've actually attended, and Mr. Norris has attended, and Mr. Springer has attended, and it's relatively cheap, and I've encouraged our department to get on that and get in there as soon as possible. I also work with HR and trying to get more of those people to attend and maybe share some costs, but it's really cheap. I went for 2 people for $99. That's how much it was for us, so it's reasonable. They have various trainings, including HVAC and some of the things that were listed on this report, and they could get certified. I'm an OSHA certified person. When I went, I also got a forklift driver. It's on video. And there's also playground upkeep, and they give them tools to measure how much of the ground or the sandbar or whatever we're using, and they also give recommendations for this type of materials, different ones to use, and what's better, that they can give recommendations to the school district and the board. I also know this would make our employees more valuable to our district. Now, we're always hoping to negotiate any kind of increases in things like we have for our wonderful certificated staff when they get something and they get something else. So I was thinking of something like that too. I was in our upcoming negotiations. And I'd like to say thank you to our AFT brothers and sisters for what they said today and speaking on their salary increases and all their life issues and things that they've shared with us. And I want to thank you for allowing me. I know it'll come up later on. I know we're working on the job. We plan on working on the job description together with the HR and the Personnel Commission. And looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you for this opportunity.
Next speaker is Jose Norris, Lead Day Custodian.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, cabinet, and audience. My name is Jose Norris, CSEA Chapter 233. I've been working for the Jefferson Elementary School District for 25 years. Of those 25 years, 12 of those years, I've been a lead custodian. During that time, I've been confident that the quality of work I do benefits the district as measured by my past positive evaluations and relationships I have built across all staff levels. I am efficient and effective on what I do to serve the students, staff, and community of the Jefferson Elementary School District. I hope to continue learning, growing, and contributing in my capacity in this capacity with the district and the community that it serves. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Dan Camarado, Night Lead Custodian.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dan Camarado, Lead Custodian, Maintenance of Operations, night version. I've worked for the Jefferson Elementary School District for approximately 5 years, 3 of them in the lead capacity, and just about 2 as a custodian, day custodian. I'm obviously one of the employees whose job is being discussed being eliminated tonight. I love my job. I love my job. I love serving the community. I love serving the schools. And most of all, I love serving the kids. What I do directly affects the kids, and I take pride in that. I also love my coworkers. enjoy working with all of them, really. Everybody's great, as attested to by the RAFT members with their, everybody in the district's great. We love them. I've also had nothing but positive evaluations in my job performance. I'm very effective currently in the job that I do. The problem is we haven't had the support that we've needed to effectively 100% do our jobs. As a matter of fact, since Mr. Heath has come into the administration of the maintenance department, we've had even less things to do. It seems like we're taking jobs away from us in preparation for this. That's what it seems like to me. This is an opinion. This is not fact. But it's just evidenced by the different things that I'm now not allowed to do. I do all the ordering supplies for the schools, including the equipment that we just bought, and which really, for many parts of it, was my idea. I'm always looking to improve the equipment, the chemicals, everything necessary for the custodians to do their job effectively and efficiently. It's just now it seems we're being thrown by the wayside. We do a lot of stuff that a manager will have to do currently. The only thing we don't do is do evaluations. We do directives. We are been told that we are speaking for Mr. Heath when we give directives. So the fact of the matter is, nothing needs to be done except for support. The standards of the district have improved, especially since this summer. Especially since this summer. And they continue to improve under Jose Norris's and my direction with the support of Mr. Heath. Thank you for listening. Have a nice evening.
So those were all the speaker cards I have. Are there any other people who would like to speak on this topic? Okay. Mr. Downs, what are the next steps in general for this?
Well, this is just a discussion. When you received the report in July, we said we would come back in September to provide sort of the district's response to that report. And so this is the first update on that, the steps that we're taking. There are other steps that will need to be taken. We can provide more updates in a couple of months as things are.
Can you explain that a little bit to me?
Explain?
What's, like you said, there's steps that we have to take. So are we implementing this thing? Yes or no?
Well,
When you say take steps.
Yes, so some steps have already been taken. Mr. Heath explained we've purchased some equipment. There are steps that are yet to be taken, such as doing things like establishing the custodial handbook. That was a recommendation. Excuse me? Yeah, or uniforms, or making a safe standard of wear, work clothing. Those are things that are yet to be done that we are agreeing with the FCMAT reporters to say that a custodial supervisor is best suited in terms of job and duties to be able to lead in that work versus someone who is not a manager or supervisor. So that's what has to happen. So we have to go through all the steps with the CSEA bargaining unit to make sure that we reach an agreement with them around which duties are managerial and supervisory and which ones are unit responsibilities.
So basically, as I'm looking at this, a lot of this, I think, is probably being done, some of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it hasn't been done, then I would say that the department head should have done this sooner than having it brought to us where we have employees that are unhappy, and that it sort of sounds like it's not going to work unless we change that staff. And I think I've noticed something just sitting on the board, that we have lost quite a few of our employees in that department, and they've left not being happy. And when I go to like FDR, I never saw the most happiest custodian in my life. But he's not happy with some of the supervision. And I think I'd like to say that I would like to explore that with you, and that we see what is really happening behind the scenes here. And if it is, then none of this is going to be worthwhile.
Okay.
Because when I go and I see the good things that the custodians do and the maintenance men, they go out of their way to be excellent employees. And I just want to be sure that what we're doing is not going to be hurtful to these employees, because some have left unhappy, very unhappy. And that should have been brought to our attention, and it wasn't. This board has not heard about it. We have to hear it way after the fact. So if this is happening and you're aware of this, please would you give us an update on that? Because I was very disappointed to find out that they left because they thought they got no support. So can we discuss that at however you want to arrange that? Because otherwise, this is not.
We will determine an appropriate venue for that conversation.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Appropriate, but I had to say it now.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think it's not just this. There's a lot of this in here should have already been done. And I would say, why wasn't it done? Or is it being done, but it's now being written like this? So I'm just very doubtful about a support of this at this moment.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll talk about more details about this
Sure.
in the future.
I just want to give you time to help me work this out.
Okay, so next item is item 12C, Board's Appointee Personnel Commission. The board will.
Where's, I don't see 12.
The board will consider current board appointee to the Personnel Commission, Ron Appel's request for reappointment, and if so, make a public announcement of his selection as the intended appointee. The board's final action will be scheduled within 45 days from September 26, 2018, in accordance with Education Code 45146. The new term of office begins December 1st, 2018.
Just want me to say a couple words? Yeah, so Mr. Appel, who's currently the board's designee for the Personnel Commission, has suggested that he'd like to continue in that capacity. You know, he's somebody that's been a long time Personnel Commission member and community member. And so we do have folks that call us on occasion asking us, as he's not our only person. We've had several people that have inquired, but at this point, you know, Mr. Appel is a well-versed Personnel Commission member, and certainly his peers and he work well together, and I certainly understand his desire to continue, and so it's brought to the board's attention at this point whether they would like to continue or make him the nominee again for that capacity.
Can I ask a question? What you just
Excuse
said?
me?
So I wanted to ask a question about what you just said. So are you saying other people are asking about
We get
wanting the
people
position?
inquiring about the Personnel Commission, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because in the past, many years ago, we used to announce it, that the position is just like, sort of like us. We just don't assume we're going to get the job, but if somebody was interested in it, the board would be interviewing. That's like we did when we interviewed Ron and got him on the. So if somebody is inquiring, we're not notified of this?
Nobody's put anything in an official, they're just, as far as in passing, there's interest is out there. I don't have any official letters of interest on my desk waiting to be presented to the board, but.
Okay, because, I mean, I just want to make sure we go through the right process, that we do it fair, and not, and actually, it probably should have been announced that there will be an opening, so if someone wanted to, but I'm just saying, I'm not saying anything against Mr. Appel, he's been here for a while, and which is good. However, when you said that, it just took me back for a moment, and I thought, I just want to inquire about that.
Thank you.
So the board has two choices. One is to announce Mr. Appel as your nominee, and later you will vote him in an official action. Or you can say we want to open it up and seek applications from the community at large for somebody that we can consider. So Mr. Appel has indicated he'd be interested in serving again and continuing his service, but the board gets to determine if he will be the nominee or if you would wish to seek additional names.
Is there any discussion among the board? Or if someone wants to take an action?
No, I'm looking at process, I'm not looking at, that's, my question was,
Well,
if there's a process that had been in play before, that we make the announcement that position's coming up, which allows somebody else, if they are interested, to at least talk about it or inquire about it.
So
So
what is-
you brought it up saying that somebody inquired, so I'm going to say, well, who made the decision not to allow that person to step forward? So whatever you guys want to do is fine with me, but I think we need in the future to go through appropriate process.
I think in the past, it's been, at least my relatively
Short time,
recent past, it's been if a personnel commissioner wants to continue serving, they make that intention clear to the group that places them on the commission. So whether it's to CSEA or it's to, and then they make that determination to, yes, make them the nominee. Typically, that's the way it's gone. When we have announced it has been when a current board personnel commissioner has decided they do not want to serve. And then that news is made known to the school board or to the union or to whatever bodies place them that they do not wish to serve, and then we enter into the process for selection. That's the way it's worked at least the last 10 years.
Since you've been here, maybe.
Yeah, and so it could have been a different way. I think either way is appropriate. It's just that the board could name Mr. Appel as a nominee, the board's nominee to the seat, or that the board wishes to elicit if there are other applications. Mr. Valenti referred to some, but I don't know if they are there still, or so board can decide, as will CSEA decide when that commissioner's time comes up, how they want to approach it.
Okay.
Mr. Valenti?
Well, you just mentioned it, that's why I'm bringing it up. You opened the box.
It's true now that the
I
box is
understand
open.
that.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay.
So, Mr.
I'll
Valenti,
take the heat on it.
what is the actual way that he expressed? Is it verbal? Is it written that he expresses?
I don't have the letter with me, but you do?
Okay. So it is in writing. So
Yes,
in
he's
that
the only
case-
one that's put it in writing, that's
Yeah.
correct.
But nobody
So-
else knew about doing it.
Well, that was my second question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So how did he know when he was supposed to submit the letter? Or how?
I don't have the straight answer on that in terms of he knows when his term ends, and he's been a member for a long time. So I'm guessing he's pretty familiar with this process.
Yeah, as is Ms. Sue, and I'm sure Ms. Lisa Sue has said, Mr. Appel, your term is about to come up. If you want to continue, I need a letter to share it with the board. If you don't want to continue, it'd be nice to have a letter to say, I don't want to continue, but.
Okay. So I'm not finished. So I hate that this door was open. So to me, it just seems like, transparency and democracy. We should have, other people should hear about this and know. But since it's already been done in this way, and he's respectfully given his intentions in writing, I think, I'm in favor of us acknowledging him as our candidate, but still opening it up to other people. But he needs to understand and know that this has nothing to do with our feelings towards him.
Okay. I mean, I.
So
This is my suggestion.
we need a motion to either name him as your nominee, and then you'll vote later on it, or say we would like to open up the position to any interested community members willing to serve, and we will put the application out and allow you to select.
Well, the thing is that, yes, he's been here for a while, and that's wonderful, but no one's going to apply if they don't know they can apply. So it's like you say, it's the fair process to do is, it would have been to announce that there is a vacancy as of this day, and he definitely can apply, and he probably would have the edge over anyone because he's already is in the position and has experience. But it just the way you said it just kind of reminded me, wait a minute, in years past, it was not considered that you get it because you're sitting there. It was an opportunity for someone else to put their name in, and then it's up to the board to interview and decide.
Would
So
would the board like to direct me in a way in which I can, make that happen, or?
We just need a motion to do that in a second and a vote to do that.
I mean, it's a little awkward now because we're in the middle of it.
Yes, it is awkward. I acknowledge that. It is awkward because it's been at least the way it's been done in the last 10 years. But the board has the authority to change practice. You also have the authority to say he will be our nominee today. But next time there's an opening on the Personnel Commission, please open it up to anybody that would be interested. So
What is the deadline for this appointment?
the position begins in January 1. It's probably January.
Days. That's probably the days right here.
December.
Yeah, but isn't there a rule saying how long you have to announce it to the public?
Yes, you have to announce
And
it.
that's probably
you have
exactly
to,
what is here.
You vote for, you have to announce it, and within 45 days of the
Yes.
announcement, you
So
vote on
is
it.
that here?
Yeah.
So we're too late anyway?
No, you're not. No. We can get some nominees to you, and within 45 days, not after 45 days, but within 45 days, it could be 7 days, it could be 2 days, you would vote on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you guys. See, you should have said that.
Well, yeah.
Then you said the truth.
I mean, if that's the direction I'm hearing, I do need a motion. Yeah.
Someone. Does anyone make a motion on whichever action the board wants to suggest to take?
Well, no action would just mean you would have to do it anyway.
Could we do both, like Trustee Ali was talking about, where we have him as our nominee, but still also open it up, or no? Is that?
Then that would be awkward for other people to apply, to say the board has preferred candidate, but they're also letting other people apply.
Yeah.
So that would be more awkward. So I think you have two choices. One is name Mr. Appel as your nominee. The second one is do not name him as your nominee, but direct staff to open up this position to any interested community members, and we will do that and get back to you within the
But that
timeline.
means he would be included, to be interviewed.
He's already indicated he's interested, so yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, even though you say it's been done this way for a few years, I never knew it wasn't being done because it always came to us as if it's done.
Yeah, when there are truly openings and vacancies, like nobody wants to return to do this, it has been that other way where you.
Yeah, but I'm saying is,
and oftentimes we only get one applicant when that's the case. You get one applicant to say they're interested. So.
well, yeah, it depends. Okay, I can remember when we had 3 or 4 people, but we tried to, like you mentioned, transparency and the fact that we're opening it so that it's not like.
I think it's clear. There's no need to explain. You just need to give us direction.
Okay. So.
I guess, is there a consensus on?
Does everybody feel it's all right to do it the right way, or what? Say something, it's like,
Both ways are right.
I mean,
So both ways are correct. It's just which way does the board want to proceed? That's what we're seeking.
So if I'm correct, on the table are two options. One is the board selects Ron Appel to be our board appointee. The second option is...
You nominate him as your board appointee. Later you will vote on
The
him.
second one is to have an open process where we can consider all candidates, and then we'll select a board appointee.
Sure.
Okay. Would anybody like to motion either of those options? Or...
Where is it? I make a motion to have Ron Appel be our nominee for Personnel Commission to start term December 1, 2018.
Is there a second?
dies for lack of a second. So I guess the next thing would be to go ahead and open it up.
So if I may ask, is it possible to push this decision to the next meeting so that we have a
It would be helpful to do it today. If we're going to open this up, we need to announce it, and we would probably be seeking you to review those applications, probably at our second meeting in October, to be appointed at the first meeting in November. So we're it's tight. So this needs to be happen today, and I would appreciate rather than a passive, we didn't decide, I would appreciate an active vote on behalf of the board to say that you wish to seek any interested applicants for this position.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the first motion did not pass. Is that someone wants to make a motion on the other alternative? Yeah.
There's no other choice.
Does that need a motion and a second in order for that?
No, it doesn't. Direction is fine.
I just said I would appreciate one.
I think the direction is fine. And
Okay, I think your lack. No, we're all tired. your lack of a second on that dictates. Then I assume that you would like to see seek more candidates. Okay, we can pursue that starting tomorrow.
I'll take that as seeking more candidates and getting as much information for the.
And they'd be invited to the next meeting so we can interview them in public. Yeah, and if there's none, Mr. Appel will come before us.
All right.
And we will select.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So next item is item 13, Board Policies Administrative Regulations. Item A, Board Policies Administrative Regulations, March 2018.
No, we have 12D.
Oh, sorry. Apologies.
Yeah.
12B?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, apologies. Item D, Maintenance and Operations Manager and Custodial Manager. The administration recommends approval of the job duties for Maintenance and Operations Manager and Custodial Manager. These new job descriptions were the result of the FCMAT recommendations. These were returned for final approval after Personnel Commission approves title, qualifications, and recommended salary ranges. So we have two speakers on this topic. First one is Paul Hagan, AFT.
Paul Hagan, President, AFT 3267. Is standing in solidarity with our CSCA brothers and sisters at the recommendation of their CSCA labor negotiator, David Wood. I strongly urge the board not to take action on this. This needs to go to negotiations. Please take it to negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is David Wood, CSEA.
Thank you, Paul, for your support and solidarity. We appreciate you and everything you do for your union. So I'd like to reiterate again, before this goes to the Personnel Commission, it really does need to go to negotiations first. It's preemptive to take this to the Personnel Commission. The process is that we need to negotiate at the table. Once it's been all worked out, then we can take it to the Personnel Commission for approval. And we got plenty of time to do this, and we will be negotiating very soon. Our sunshine is prepared. I believe it's been sent. So, we're prepared now to set dates and get to the table right away on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we table this item.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Says motion.
Question, though. I got a little bit confused with all the speakers tonight, and I was just wondering, Mr. Vice President, do you understand what's being said as far as when they're saying that they want more support?
Are you asking me personally?
Yeah, I'm asking you because I heard the word support twice tonight, but I really didn't understand what they meant by that.
Is that a question I should answer?
I don't know what is meant. What I interpreted was that the line staff would like some more support to accomplish their job duties. I agree, and I think a custodial supervisor manager would be able to provide that kind of support to know what they need to do, custodians need to do to accomplish what they need to do. So that's how I interpreted that request. It could be a variety of other things, but anyway, we should probably move on. It is, we need to be out of here close to 10, so there's a lot of other stuff to accomplish tonight.
Okay. So next item is now item 13, Board Policies, Administrative Regulations. Board Policies, Administrative Regulations, March 2018 CSBA Board Policy Revisions. Second reading, the board will review and revise board policies, administrative regulations from March 2018 CSBA board policy revisions as stated in the second reading. Are there any comments, discussions, action, motion?
I'm sorry.
13A. If there are no comments, would someone like to make a motion on the topic?
On B? A? Sorry, why did I go down to B? Okay, I'll make them, no one has any questions on it? Okay, then I'll make a motion that we approve Board Policies, Administrative Regulations, March 2018 CSBA Board Policy Revisions, second reading.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous. Next item is item 13B, Board Policy Administrative Regulations, May 2018 CSBA Board Policy Revisions, second reading. The board will review and revise board policies administrative regulations from May 2018 CSBA Board Policy Revisions as stated in the second reading.
And these are all the ones that we work continually to copy the follow the guidelines of CSBA.
Yes, we do, and we adapt to our district practices when appropriate.
Yeah. So it's not like we make it all up.
We're not writing these from scratch for sure.
Yeah. Which makes it so much easier. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve board policies, administrative regulations for May 2018 CSBA board policy revision, second reading.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 That was unanimous.
Governance.
Next item is item 14, Governance Team Member Comments, Reports, and Reflections on Board Meeting Guidelines.
Yeah. Number one, we will keep our focus on the best interests of our students, and no more comments. That's it.
Okay, I will say the same thing. Number one, to keep our focus on the best interests of our students, and I'm going to tell you that visiting schools as often as I have been for many years, they love the school secretaries, they love their teachers, and they sure love their custodians. They become role models.
I don't know why I gravitate towards number 3 all the time for some reason, but I, I actively listen and am open to what others are saying, especially hearing, the comments from the teachers and our lead custodians, and I want to look for common ground, which is in line with number 1, even though it's not directly with the students. These people, the staff, teachers, classified custodians, they all affect our students' success. So definitely listening to them and being open to what their feelings and ideas and struggles are was important today.
I selected we will work towards future, learning from the past. I think we did that tonight. So next item is item 15, persons wishing to address the board on closed session items. I know we did that earlier. If there were any other comments?
We did it already, didn't we? Okay. Well, in case somebody else wanted to.
So next items, we're going to convene to closed session. And before we do so, I'm going to ask that we close in memory of Jane Deneen, teacher at John F. Kennedy Elementary School, and President Liagi Anawai's father, who recently passed away. So let's ask for a moment of silence, please. So we will go to a 5-minute recess before we head into closed session.